531.
3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host, and I figured this week, since on the other channel, we are doing boxing films, I figured why the hell not let us go on about the only boxing movie that I knew outside of Rocky, and it is Kid Monk Baroni, filmed
And
in
this is no Rocky.
1992, and it just so happens to be Leonard Nimoy's first starring role. This is before the Spock years. And it's directed by Harold D. Shuster. It was a movie that was on rotation on the Universal channel since the 50s. And they evidently instated its rotation in 2018.
Not there no more.
And right now, it's right now, if you wanted to see it, at the moment and present time, it is on Pluto and it is on Tubi. So let me
also
go
on the Internet Archives, because my TV didn't say it was on Tubi. So
let me see what IMDb says about the film before we go into our first impression.
I can sum up the movie.
Kid Monk Baroni, the leader of a street gang, becomes a professional boxer to escape his life in Little Italy, New York. So, heading with first impressions, let's start with you, Tammy. What did you think about the film? Was it a first time watch for you?
According to you, no.
Yeah. We watched it once before.
I thought it was pretty good. You know, it's definitely different seeing Leonard Nimoy, you know, like that. You know, I'm so you're so used to seeing him on Star Trek. You know, so, but I like the storyline behind it. You know, I liked how it showed it, you know, with a little bit of kindness, what can happen, but then also what a little bit of fame can cause too. So it was definitely a film that made you look at life's lessons. You might
I
want to
wouldn't say it was fame. It was having a face change. Changed his personality.
Yeah, well, the fame too, because when he had the money, he went out with that leather lady, but we'll get to that. So, but yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie.
Okay, heading over to you, Boris. What was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was, and as you know, I often tend to have difficulties distinguishing the words in spoken English, and with this movie, I kind of had difficulties because I couldn't find subtitles for it. Okay, I did understand most of it, I guess, but there were parts I didn't fully understand, so I had to read the plot on Wikipedia later on. Well, my impressions are kind of mixed. Yeah, the message behind the movie is good, but then again, I couldn't really see the point of all the fuss about the main character's face at the beginning, like he was acting as if his face was deformed or something, and it didn't really look deformed to me. it actually looked normal to me, and I couldn't even uh, tell much difference between how he looked before and after the surgery. So I found that kind of confusing, I must say. Not sure if anyone else could see what was supposedly wrong with his face at the beginning, but
I could.
okay, what was it?
He had
There was
like
some
big
makeup.
burn marks on the side of his face, and his eyebrow was messed up, and his nose was
Crooked.
offset. Yeah, it was just yeah. He definitely he looked like he got smashed with a iron.
Well,
It
I
was
don't
very
know.
hard to tell it was Leonard Nimoy when he was still before the surgery. Once it was he had the surgery, he very much looked like Leonard Nimoy.
Huh. Well, okay, I guess. Although I still do like some messages in the movie, especially what the priest told him at one point shortly after the beginning, when he said something like, okay, I can't repeat it word by word, by something like, even if others mistreat you because of how you look, that doesn't mean you have the right to mistreat yourself because of it, because that makes you as bad as them.
Yeah.
That was
And then
um,
he said, you know, your looks, just like your skin color, your hair, how long it is or short is just the outside appearance. It
I
doesn't mean
actually
anything.
thought that moment, which I'm sure we'll come across it again, that particular moment for this time period was a good message
definitely yes.
because this is like in the 50s, like way before like you know, Martin Luther King and the uprising of you know,
You're more likely to see a movie with slaves or people being mistreated than you are hearing a message like that in a movie. So, yeah, it's definitely before its time.
so.
Yeah.
But does that pretty much take up the most of your first impressions then?
Well, I uh, I was just going to say the movie did have some interesting moments. Later on, there were some moments when I was somewhat losing focus, which probably somewhat has to do with the fact that I really had to concentrate on what they were saying since I didn't have subtitles. So yeah, that was a little bit of a difficulty for me, but yeah, other than that, it was okay.
Okay. How about you, Kroll? Going into this, was this the first time watch for you?
Yep.
And what were your thoughts on it?
Boring. I mean, yeah, it definitely had a couple good messages. The story was okay. It's just I don't know, just the way it was presented just I found it boring. Leonard Nimoy's character he was okay. He wasn't horrible. He wasn't great. I mean, I didn't love him or hate him. He was just there. He didn't really strike much. I did like Emily. She was a sweet person. I think he was a complete idiot when he, you know, dumped her for that bimbo, um, that gold digger. Um, yeah. So, I mean, the only fight that actually looked that was actually interesting was the final fight, and and of course we know what happened. So, which wasn't. I don't think it wasn't the same as
Oh, yeah,
Rocky. Um, so,
uh,
it's just uh, there wasn't it wasn't very entertaining to me.
oh yeah, I forgot to say, the story to some extent reminded me of Kid Galahad, although I found that one a little bit more entertaining than this one.
Kid Galahad was a lot more insane than this one was.
And myself, I first came across this on a Mobster 10-pack from um, Mill Creek Entertainment, and the copy that I saw actually had a moment that wasn't on Tubi. I think it actually had him singing uh, uh, like baritone in the choir. Where
I thought we were going to hear him sing too.
Huh?
I thought we were going to hear him sing. So I was kind
Yeah.
of scared we didn't.
For some reason, on other copies you don't, but on this particular copy you actually do.
Oh,
It's just something I don't understand why they cut it or whatnot, but it is what it is.
if
And also, this movie also can go under the title of Young Monk Barony, by the way. But it
That
is
title actually makes more sense.
it is more known as Kid Monk Barony, which I
Makes no
honestly like
sense.
that title a little better, even though the other one does make more sense.
I don't like either title, but at least the young one makes sense.
if
But,
you do,
I like the message. I enjoy how young Leonard Nimoy is. I think the women
Nimoy.
in the film are good looking. I think that the priest was a fairly decent priest for like a New York background, you know. Um, and
Decent for a fiction.
I don't often see um, situations where a priest is teaching people, specifically young boys, how to fight, even though I know it's
Yeah, never heard of a thing called Daredevil.
huh.
Daredevil.
Oh yeah, I remember Daredevil.
Yep, and the priest taught him to fight.
Okay, okay, but it's not as more predominant that a priest will teach kids how to fight. Normally, it's like have them play basketball in a gym or a soccer team or a sport that's not like gonna like hurt you. um,
But not hockey.
maybe I'm wrong. I'm not used to seeing this type of thing in a Christian like setting. So, but yeah, I love black and white and uh, the the whole gang aspect of this. You get the peer pressure, you know. I love its entirety, and I love its message. So I thought this was a good film to put out there. Sorry if it was boring to you folks who thought it was boring, but
maybe a little bit at some points, but realistically, I've seen much worse.
yeah. So
I've
let's
seen
go
much
in.
worse, but as far as boring.
So let's go into the plot. So
It's no Napoleon Dynamite, I guarantee. I give you that. Boring as fucking movie.
that
And
was
worse yet, I just found out it's supposed to be a comedy.
it's dark humor.
No, it's not. It's
humor.
no humor. It's no humor.
I agree.
I like
I
dark
agree.
humor. I like all forms of humor. It has no humor at all. But that's for a different time because we're not discussing that.
No. But yeah. So we have a kid who is in a gang, and that gang just so happens to be the Billy Goat Gang. I don't. I have no idea why the name of the gang is so predominant in like the credits. So maybe it was a real gang on the streets of New York at that
Billy
time.
Goat Gruff.
But I imagine these boys are a bit similar to the Bowery Boys, except a little bit all grown up. And there are a couple of characters that um, are in the gang that are um, like um, Paul. Paul Baroni is his name, and ultimately he gets called Monk Barony, just because he's eventually once he's like um, finds grace underneath um, the church and the aspect of Christianity and all that.
He didn't find Grace. He found Emily.
Uh, the priest took him under his wing and taught him boxing, and he started learning things from the good book. So, and his friend Angelo, who was also with him in the gang, was kind of his like best friend and almost like his lackey, almost because he would do things for him a lot, and he became his roommate later on.
With his trainer.
But what do you think about Paul Barony at this very beginning part where um, they're obviously cutting wood off the staircase for firewood for their own families, but it's kind of delinquent because people still live in the building, and although um, uh, Monk did say something to the fact that the place was condemned and it was supposed to be torn down. This is about when um, the priest, uh, Father
Callahan.
Callahan, played by Richard Rober, um, comes in and accosts them and tells them it's wrong. Uh, what do y'all think about Barony as he's being kind of sort of introduced?
Uh, well, as far as what they were doing goes, about cutting what's the English word for that thing on the staircase?
What do you mean?
Uh, the wooden thing they were cutting, I can't remember the English word
I
for it.
believe it was a saw.
Uh, no, I
No,
mean
he said what they were cutting. They were cutting the banister, or
oh,
banister, or railing.
oh,
It
oh,
looked
yeah,
more like banister than railing, but
What were they cutting it with?
yeah, that's what I mean.
I would say a
So,
handsaw.
it was a handsaw.
uh, yeah, well, what I was going to say is I wasn't really thinking that much about what they were doing, but I did pay more attention to him getting unnecessarily violent with this other guy who he punched in the face just looking at him or something like that. I thought that was weird and kind of unnecessary, and I wondered what the point of that scene was for the further plot.
Well, Father Callahan offered them a place to stay at the
Th-
church, and
This was before that.
Monk just doesn't like to be looked at. He he feels the things that are wrong with his face. He feels there are things wrong with his face. So he doesn't like people looking at him. So when he felt like the other guy was like staring at him, that's why he slapped him.
yeah,
Uh,
he's sensitive about his face, even though it's not pretty yet. You know, uh, he's sensitive because he thinks it's part of what's wrong with him, and it's
The
like
funny thing is, I didn't find it that offensive, but that's just my opinion.
uh, Sorry, what did you say, Tammy?
I really didn't find his face that offensive. So
Oh, yeah, same
It wasn't that
here.
offensive. No, I mean, I noticed the differences, but I never thought he was all that offensive in the first place.
no,
Mm,
but we do get some comments later on from that manager that signs him on, saying he looks like a primitive being, uh, which makes me think that at this point in time, he did look rather harsh. He did look rather rough around the edges, to other people, you know. So, that being said, there is one character in the gang, in the Billy Goat gang, that I would like to mention. Is his name was Pete,
The thief.
the thief. And he wore this long overcoat, and he would steal everything throughout the movie.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
if it would have fit in his overcoat, he probably
I
would
was
have
gonna
taken that
say,
too.
I was just about to say that if it would fit, he would have.
Because evidently there was a pile of wood that they'd already gathered, and it wasn't his.
He's the where'd all the wood go?
And honestly, I think the film needed that bit of comic relief, because
that
he,
that
he he showed up rather often.
yeah.
Uh, Pete, that Pete, and I have to look his name up because I really liked that character.
Oh, the actor.
I really liked the actor and the character. Let's see. Pete was played by Archer McDonald.
Never heard of him.
I guess he's been in other things.
Usually.
Let's see. This was the first movie he was in, but he was in Gaisha Girl, Something for the Birds, Back at the Front, Scandal at Scary, The Glory Brigade, Powder River,
Glory
Latin
Brigade.
Verse, The Affair of Dobby Gillis, Main Street to Broadway, Give a Girl a Break, Three Sailors and a Girl, The Student Prince. He was in Brigadoon.
So far, you
Um,
have not named anything I've seen.
Brigadoon,
Brigadoon was good. I like Brigadoon.
and
Still haven't seen.
and the last thing that he was in was in 1956. It was called Anything Goes, and he played Otto. I
I
wish that
thought
he
you
would have
liked Gene
been,
Kelly.
huh?
Crow.
What?
I thought you liked Gene Kelly.
I never said that.
Oh, I thought you did.
He's all right.
Oh, then you'd like Brigadoon though.
Never seen it, so I can't say if I'd like it or not.
But in any case, I wanted to mention him because he was a fun character. But they end up over at um, the church, and you see um, Barony trying to punch at a punching bag, and he just can't do it.
Getting angry at a punch bag is stupid.
And that's when Father Callahan he ends up saying, "Hey,
You gotta coach it.
you got to
Coax
coach
it.
it. Yep,
Coax it.
you got to coax it. You can't just throttle it or whatnot." And then in the next scene, he's teaching the other boys.
Oh,
how
you
to-
forgot about the fight. He's like,
Yeah,
he's like
he
fighting.
does
He's
fight
like,
with
I don't
them.
want to hurt you. I'll hurt you. He's like, all right, just remember you asked for it. And of course, he gets his ass knocked out.
What did you hit me with?
A rough jab.
That's when you get some Christianity mixed in with this, where he's like, the Lord Lord has the good word, but if anything, he has a good left jab or something like that.
I
So
think he messed that up a little bit.
he, s- he said something like, "It's easy to forget the Lord when we are angry," but then he said something about the left jab, which I actually don't even know what that means.
well, it basically meant that you know to have a good fighting hand when it comes to the word of the Lord or some shit like that. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I did figure that out. I meant I don't know what the word jab means.
jab means
Punch.
hit, punch.
Yeah, it's a type of punch.
Oh,
It's a quick punch to
It's a boxing term.
the face or the stomach or somewhere. It's just a quick punch. It's called a jab.
oh, oh, I see. Thanks.
Just like another way of saying jab is cut.
I'd be
Like
happy to
an
demonstrate it on
uppercut.
David for you.
Yeah, please do.
Oh,
Ha ha ha.
Come on, I'll pay. I'll pay to see that.
Ha 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 ha. Well, in any case,
Give him a good right hook.
let us go on with the plot. After at that moment, we see we see Barony actually teaching some of the other kids
Yeah, and he's saying
how
exactly what
to
was
box,
taught to him.
specifically his friend Angelo, I believe, and he also tries to teach Pete, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he fights Pete and knocks him out.
In fact, I think out of the gang, Pete and Angelo are like the two that like kind of stay by his side throughout the whole.
Well, Pete is still part of the gang,
Yes,
but he's completely on Paul's side. Like he's still part of the gang, but he's still friends with Paul.
and it's at this moment that Father Callahan brings in a female teacher that is very pretty, and
Emily.
evidently she's supposed to work with him. And they have some interesting exchange.
Yeah, right away she looked at him like she seemed interested in him right away, and she didn't care about his face at all.
Yep, and I think
No,
any of
because
these,
she was a good girl. She saw people from the inside out.
Yep. Wow, that just gave me a visual. Ew.
anyways, so we have this exchange, and he seems rather content with meeting her, and then he gets interested in the music of the choir, and he ends up telling the good father that he wants in on the singing, and he says, "Okay, well, why don't we see what the choir thinks about your voice?" And there are some interesting home moments because you do see uh, Paul's mother and father, like after he comes home with like firewood and stuff, um, and after he starts hanging out with the church and whatnot, and he's very happy to tell his mom that he's part of the choir, and they think that he's got a good a decent baritone voice. You know, he's really excited. In fact, I think Nimoy's excitement or emphasis for that excitement shows there. But
He can show emotion.
I know, right?
It's
We're used to
illogical.
so logical. Everything's illogical, you know. In fact, I seem to remember on one of William Shatner's first spoken word albums, he did a spoken word song called "Highly Illogical." But um, getting back to the story, so joins the choir. You hear you hear some singing, but in the copy that I watched, it doesn't show him singing. But he comes out in these white robes, and his gang is standing outside, and like they start to poke fun at him, and um, he just is not having it. He's
Nice dress.
You
I
know,
like to go on a date.
on the version I watched, the singing was heard for a few seconds, and then it just cut into this scene of him coming out before the fight begins. And
The version I saw had nothing, not one bit of singing at all.
mm, well,
Not one note.
here I could hear maybe, I don't know, 2 3 seconds of singing, and then it just cut into this scene, and it
Yeah,
did feel like
it's not my
something
type
that.
of music, but I was interested in maybe hearing him sing a little, just out of curiosity. So I was kind of like, "What the fuck?"
Y-
well,
You
yeah.
never,
Yeah,
you never
does
actually in
We
my
know
version,
he
I never
can
actually heard him
sing.
sing.
We
So
know
does
he can sing because there is an episode where him and Lahura sing on the
I
original
never
Star
saw
Wars.
that.
does anyone know why they cut this scene out in this movie?
Stupidity. I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of other scenes that could cut out. That was something I was actually interested in, and I'm sure other people probably would have been interested in. And they cut it out. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all. It makes zero sense.
Well, we don't know if there was anything filmed with his singing involved in it.
Well, well, I mean, he at least Philippe got to hear a little bit. I mean, not a lot,
Well,
but still a little
uh,
bit. I didn't even get nothing.
well, there clearly is some scene when you heard it on Tubi or somewhere,
I didn't
but
watch it on Tubi.
oh,
I
I
watched it on
heard
the
a little bit of
I
music,
watched it on the Internet
a
Archive.
little bit of music and singing, and then it cut.
I heard no singing.
But regardless, um, it's at this moment that Father Callahan comes out, and tries to uh, alleviate the situation. And
Spudow!
With a rock.
Barony does not see who it is in the shadows and knocks the priest out. everyone says murder.
Everyone thinks he's dead.
Yeah, everyone thinks he's dead. And he's just dumbfounded, standing there. And his friend Angelo is saying, "Hey, you got to get going. You got to get to the oil coal tracks, because evidently that's where the train tracks were, or whatnot. And it took him a moment to get him to get going, but he did, and that's when him and Angelo, well, Angelo goes and meets him with a couple of sandwiches, because evidently that's all he could get from the mission, and they end up eventually rooming together, and also because boxing seems to be the only thing he knows, and he can't go home because he thinks that he's going to be in trouble. He becomes a boxer for, should I say, the underground. I guess I would say not the pros, but the primaries, or whatever you would consider the
Amateurs.
primaries. And he ends up winning.
Gets paid in fake gold watches.
Yeah.
Worth about $4. And that poor guy is so sick and tired of hearing watches. He tells him how he can become a professional fighter.
And him and Angelo go and each have a steak and go to play pool.
Yep.
Yeah, share a steak and share a pool table. That's their favorite pastime.
So ultimately, they are told by that watch that I think he's an antique dealer, or pawn shop.
Yeah, it's a pawn shop. I think at that time it was antiques. I don't think they actually had pawn shops at that time, so it actually was an antique dealer, but it basically was like a pawn shop just before they were invented.
He basically tells them to go see a Mr. Mr. Hellman, who is played by Bruce Cabot, who we know Bruce Cabot. He played in the original King Kong as Jack Driscoll.
Kebab.
He also played in many other films. A lot of John Wayne films, like Clinton McClintock. Let's see what else.
It was hard to tell anybody except for
It was definitely
Nimoy. That damn black and white, no color. Ruined everything.
Yeah.
Well, he was definitely a black and white actor, and I guess he hasn't just played in King Kong. Let's see. Looking for maybe one that I might actually know. Gunfighters, the Gallant Legion, Fancy Pants.
Everybody knows King Kong.
Let's see. He was in Tales of Tomorrow, which was an anthology thing.
With a name like Tails, who would have thunk it?
Goliath and the Barbarians, so I guess he played in some Sword and Sandals. Atari was another John Wayne film. In Harm's Way was another John Wayne film. Cat Ballou, he played Sheriff Meladon. That was a good Western. The War Wagon. The Green Berets. So I guess he starred somewhat.
So he plays in a lot of boring movies except for King Kong. Got it.
He plays in a lot of decent films. Because
I only heard one, King Kong.
But that being said, they go to Hellman, and I know Barony wants to fight him.
Yeah, he's an asshole to him.
He is kind of an asshole, but he signs them on anyways because he likes his look, and he tells them.
Well, he also saw he could fight too. He had notes on him, like he knew who he was before he walked through the door. You know, because like he says, if he believed everybody that walked in there, he'd be 24 hours training idiot. You know, he didn't say idiots, but basically, you know, he'd be training people that said they were good but weren't. You know, he was actually honest, and he said, "You're new to the game. You're honest."
Yep. But he ends up giving them $20, which goes a long way at this point.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, I was thinking the watches, they got $4. They got 6, so that's $24. They made almost just as much just seeing this guy and didn't even have to fight yet. Just of course he was alone because he said he expects to get it back. But yeah, it was nice. So they had a roof over their head, nice roof over their head with that was probably heated, so they didn't freeze to death, and he was able to train them too. So yeah.
Yep.
$20 in 1955 is probably like $200 now.
So here begins the montage of fights, because that's what I call it, a montage. Because you see newspapers, you see him fighting several different characters.
I did not like his fighting style at all. It was completely boring. It's like all he did was throw hooks and then and then he's like pounding them like a hammer. Like, what? I've never seen that in boxing. I didn't know it was legal.
Well, if it had him win the matches, then I guess you can't fault him there.
Well, it's not punching. He wasn't punching him though. He was smashing him. It was like he may as well just say Hulk smash.
So he was smashing people
Except he was super skinny. His arms were skinny. He did not look like a fighter at all. Like he was way too skinny to be fighting.
Yeah, he definitely was skinny, and I actually was surprised. He was quite furry on that chest of his, for being a skinny dude. Normally, skinny dudes are like pale, pasty, and white.
Dude, I have no hair on my chest, and I am not fucking skinny at all.
Well, I am furry as fuck, and my nickname used to be...
I know, you're a fucking werewolf. Forget it. you're a weird wolf.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Uh-huh.
So I bark at the moon. I don't howl.
If Tammy likes laying on a rug every night, that's fine.
Oh, she likes furry.
I guess so.
But anyways,
you like the Shaggy?
I don't mind the fighting style, just so long as he's on a winning streak. I know nothing about like the way boxing is supposed to be. I've never really seen a full-on boxing fight. Never been interested.
I've seen like one, but that was the one that would last for like 2 seconds. And of course, I've seen the Rocky movies, so the Rocky movies seem like, I mean, obviously Rocky at first wasn't really a boxer, but at least he was fighting, punching.
I will say one thing: we get more montages in this film of Nimoy fighting than we do of Rocky.
Yeah, but Rocky actually fights better, even when he wasn't even good at fighting. It was
I agree.
Way better.
I agree. Cinematically, Rocky does fight better, but in the 1950s and 30s, that all looked like fake boxing to me. Like all you had to do was just swing in front of you and wildly, But then again, maybe that was the fighting technique of the time,
Well, it was his style, but there was other people that had that same style because they said that like when he quit and he's like, maybe they'll find someone else like your style, if you don't hurry up and come back to me. So so there's obviously other people with that style. I just don't like it. I just don't like the style at all. That's why I said the last fight was was the best fight in the movie because he was fighting to win, not that defensive boring stuff, and he wasn't using the other boring stuff either. He was actually trying to fight normal. I mean, he probably would have won if he actually went back to the clubbing crap, but it made it look better, but the end result stunk. Because Rocky Rocky won even though he lost because he went to 15 rounds against the greatest fighter in the world. So he felt like he won even though he didn't win the match. Whereas this guy, he just lost. And then, of course, the priest comes in with, oh, you didn't lose because you were blah, 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 all that Christian crap. No, he lost. But.
Well, in any case, let's dial it back down again to the back story. Emily is, in fact, his girlfriend, and they go on dates. And
she goes out with other guys. Well, you might see him fight then.
But he does ultimately end up running into Father Callahan while he was evidently listening on his downtime to church music. And
yeah, he bought a record, and they said you wanted to hear it, and he went to Les Paul's, which I know does a lot of instruments and stuff. But I guess they had a record store in the 50s, because I don't know if you noticed when he went in the door, it said Les Paul's. Like if you look real quick, you can see it say Les Paul's. And of course, I recognize the name from just hearing all kinds of instruments.
had to have been an early store.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I mean, as far as I know, Les Paul's, didn't even sell records. So, obviously, I guess they started out selling records before they sold instruments. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So there are some interesting aspects of this film. But he has an exchange with, and he's excited to see him because he thought that, the worst had happened.
Well, he knew he was okay because he was told that he was at the hospital and he was fine. But he thought he was going to be mad at him, upset with him for hitting him, and
yeah, he just said he's just
and the
mad.
father's just basically like, at first, yeah, I'm human, I was mad, but he forgave him, and then was just kind of mad because he didn't show up for a year. That he took so long to show, like, well, he never actually showed up. The father happened to see him and he went to him and then told him to come to the church and stuff, and that he doesn't bear him any ill will. He knows it was an accident, and
In fact, there's a church dance function and charity gig.
Why is he telling to bring the manager though? And I'm thinking, well, if he's gonna bring someone like other than a girl, he should have brought Angela. Why would he want to bring his manager? That made no sense at all. Like,
yeah, that didn't make sense at all to me.
That seemed really weird and stupid, but yeah.
Which is why we got the whole he's not my friend,
Yeah, he's just my manager, yeah, which is completely the truth. He wanted to knock the guy out. He didn't like him at all, but he's his manager, so he doesn't. Then we have the dance, and then he's so shy and stupid. Like, this is before he went on dates with Emily. Okay, so this is the first time he's with Emily. Oh, second time he meets Emily, and she asks him to dance, and he like immediately tries to make an excuse, and they both like bolt. And then she's like, well, you have no more excuses left. And like, why would he just want to dance with her? She's gorgeous, and his thought of he doesn't think he can find any kind of love because of the way he looks. And here's a beautiful girl asking him to dance. And he actually is a good dancer, so he doesn't have the excuse of he can't dance.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty stupid of him not
And
accepting
it's
right away.
because of the second meeting is that they start meeting up with each other.
Yeah, they start dating.
He takes her on a drive afterwards, and they go to what seems to me kind of like a lover's lane type.
Yeah,
You know,
parking spot. Yeah,
parking the car,
yeah.
which was so romantic to do back in those days.
That was the thing to do back then.
Well, yeah, because you couldn't do it at your parents' place because they would have probably shown up at the door with a shotgun, being like, "Okay, uh,
Well, the thing is
one of you is going to be marrying my daughter because
they weren't
pregnant."
teenagers. They weren't teenagers,
I
and
know.
so that was the difference. It was definitely the Lover's Lane and stuff like that was definitely a popular place for teenagers. Because they were old enough supposedly to be doing that, even though in olden times people were married at younger ages. But yeah, in the 50s it was teenagers shouldn't even be kissing or whatever. And that's all they did. Well, that's all they showed they did. And I think that's all they did at first. I'm sure at some point they did the nasty, but we actually never get that. You do figure out he does it with the gold digger, but they
Well,
call it having a last
as
cigarette.
I honestly don't think she allowed him to touch her any
Oh
way, shape,
no,
or
he
other
did. He definitely did. If you saw the context, having the last cigarette, that means she said the date ends on the other side of the door, and then he's like protesting, and then she talks about this dress she wants, and he's like, "I'll buy it," and she's like, "Okay." So she doesn't care about giving her body as long as she gets something out of it. She's a whore for gifts, which is the typical
she's an attention seeker.
a typical whore.
But yeah, we'll get to that because and that's what happens with fame. And honestly, uh, let's see.
Well, his
So
whole personality changed
after
when he
after
had
he's been
his
winning
face
for
changed.
Hellman, he gets a talk from Hellman about the fact that these bigwigs from the syndicate, which at that time that's what the mafia was called, the syndicate.
Oh, is that what that who it was?
Oh, so that's what it
I thought
meant.
they were like just a boxing syndicate. Like I don't
No,
know.
the
I just
syndicate. What if anyone referred to the syndicate in any film whatsoever? That's
Oh,
mafia.
that's amazing. They never fucking killed the manager or Baroni when he lost, because that would be something the mob would do.
Yeah, it was a light name to give them, but uh,
Yeah, I did not know that. So
it was in New York and it was called the Syndicate. So yeah, and I think that's why it showed up on the mobster collection that I have because technically
oh,
that's
it showed up in a mobster collection. Wow, that's weird. I would
yeah,
have been like, why the fuck is this in a mobster collection?
because it's got
Yeah, well,
a
now
young
I
kid
understand that, but
gang
I never knew anything
and the
about
mafia ties.
syndicate being something for mobs. So that's
Anytime
something different.
you heard anything thing called the Syndicate, it was normally a made
Well, again, I did not know that. So,
man.
and there was no guns in the movie too, so definitely didn't feel like a mobster movie.
No, but you have the
I'd
mob
say
ties.
Kid Galahad felt more like a mobster movie than this one did.
Yeah, that had a little bit of some mobster ties, but they didn't
Yeah,
call
and
it
they actually had guns too.
true.
So,
But yeah, so he's offered like this big because big to do to be backed by these guys. That means you're going to be making money.
right.
And so he does fight for for them, and I think he wins at least the first three.
Yeah, no, the second one I think he lose. Second or first or second, he loses due to foul. Probably that punching he's doing is not supposed to be doing it. Like, I mean, he did some. Just said foul. It didn't say why. Say he lost due to foul. I've never heard the term foul in boxing. So I don't
Nor
actually
have I.
know what
I
a
remember
foul is
seeing
in
that too,
boxing.
that he lost a foul, and I'm
Yeah,
like, okay.
yeah, I have no clue what a foul in
What
boxing
were they
looks like.
filming a
I
baseball
maybe,
game at the same
maybe
time
he
or
bit his ear. That's definitely a foul.
something? Yeah,
If you don't know, Philip, what we're referring to when I say he bit his ear is Mike Tyson, who was a world champion for a long time in the late 80s. He bit what was it, Holyfield's ear? He bit it off, half of it off. So that's what I was referring to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. What did he bite off?
His
He
ear,
bit someone's ear off,
half his ear off, Holyfield's ear.
and he got in trouble for it, if I remember
He was
correctly.
giving Holyfield a
Whoa!
holy ear. Oh yeah, he got all
Whoa!
kinds of
Ouch!
fines, and wasn't he in prison for it for a little while or something?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, yeah, and he was the champion too. And then, of
Yeah.
course, he got in prison again for beating up his wife, Robin
Oh
Givens.
crap!
There used to be a very terrible joke that said, you're getting beaten up like Robin Givens.
Oh! Ow!
Yeah, well, I just say it was terrible.
Well, that's fine. I do like morbid humor. Otherwise,
Oh yeah, me too. I'll tell you some more later.
okay.
Well, on one of the dates that he goes on with Emily, he has this talk about how he hates his face or something to that nature, and she says, "Well, why don't you do something about it?
Well, what can I do? She's having
Change your
plastic surgery.
change your face." And he's like, "Well, how can I do that? I've always been told that a face is something. Well, uh, if anything, it's the thing that you hate about the most in yourself. If you change your face, then you'll feel better about yourself." And she's all thinking that it's going to be a positive thing, you know, that maybe
Well,
Yeah.
if he betters
And
his
then he
face.
changes his face, changes his attitude, and dumps her. And instead of
mm,
moving on with their life like she expected, he goes out with this bimbo.
Well,
That's, I
uh,
mean,
she, she
at
dumps
least,
him.
at least she was honest. She was an honest whore. Like she straight up told him, like, if you want to be with me, you're gonna have to get me things. I mean, she straight up told him she wasn't a sneaky gold digger or anything. She straight up told him, and that's when she dumped him because she's like, you can't afford me. I mean, it's horrible, but that's the kind of woman she was in the first place, and he knew that. So
One
he
of the
should
things
never
I
he
did
should have
want to
never
say
left Emily for her.
one of the things I did
mm,
want to say about her is that technically, while he was beginning to get money, evidently he'd gotten himself a better place. Like he actually had a suite in a hotel, the whole 9 yards. The big suite in the hotel. Him and Angelo actually lived there, and basically, Angelo lived off his fighting money too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, Angelo was still his trainer, so he was still getting paid to be a trainer and stuff too. And yeah, he was living with him, but he was constantly telling, he was talking about Emily, like why are you spending all this money on June, and you're not even spending any time on Emily,
well,
and like mind your own business, and
June was a mild flirtation at first because he would
Oh
come in.
yeah, I mean I get that, but he went to the next level with her, and
Yep.
he dumped Emily,
He got
He didn't
excited
Actually,
about his
he didn't
face.
completely dump her,
actually,
but he pretty much did. And then when he does see her, he's a complete asshole. And she mentions it, and you know, and then she just gets out of the. He just keeps kissing
actually,
her, and she gets out of the car, you know. And then we get
What are
the
you trying to
scene.
say, Mars?
wasn't he actually cheating on Emily rather than
No,
having
because
dumped her?
they weren't exclusive. See, back in those days, it was normal for men and women to date multiple people, and until they decided that they were just exclusive with each other, that's how it was. It was normal. Whereas in this day and
Oh,
age, it's not, which is weird. But I think that might be part of the reason why um, men and women, don't stay together anymore because they don't play the field. They don't fucking get the opportunity to see how it's like with a bunch of people, and then decide which person they want to be with.
See,
They just
I
take.
always thought in people's minds, if you dated, um, normally people don't play the field. They
Well, they used to, is what I'm saying. They used to play the field, and relationships used to last. Now they don't play the field, and relationships don't fucking last. With obviously exceptions like you guys and stuff, but I'm just saying, majority relationships don't fucking last. People don't even work on them anymore. Even marriage, marriage is a farce.
well, to some, it's only a paper.
Exactly. It's only paper, and
Mm,
it's a farce.
But in any case, uh, yeah, he gets he is at the top of his game at one moment, and he ends up spending money left and right on June, and he
Yeah,
ends up
all his money's
broke.
all his well. See, he had money saved up from all those fights. Once he got the pretty face, he didn't want to fight anymore, so he wasn't fighting. So all his money was going out to June, but nothing was coming in. That's what Angelo said to him, and he's basically told him to mind his own business and stuff. And then of course we get the whole June breaks up with him because he's broke. He's behind on his fucking on his a month's on his rent. You
Yep.
know. And then you get the next scene where the manager's looking for him and she's like, you're on the wrong side of the tracks, you better go down to the flea hotel section, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he finds him, and he's like, "How'd you find me?"
I followed the trail of unpaid bills.
And that was a great line, honestly. Uh, but he basically tells him, "Hey, you don't like back down from a fight from these people, and I put money on the line for you, so you're gonna fight."
No. Actually, he wasn't. He was saying we're gonna still making money. You quitting is only hurting you. So he wasn't even telling them like you have to fight or anything. He was saying for you, you're gonna have to fight because you're gonna need money. And then he finally realizes okay, and then he goes in and starts fighting this defensive fight. You know, and at first they're pissed, and then the manager comes up with this idea of making a lot of money from him, which would work perfectly if uh, Baroni actually won the fight.
Yeah. But he also places a side bet
Well, yeah, I mean,
against
well, he's forced to make a side bet of 5,000 because they put in 10 because it was his idea, and of course, they lose their. Well, I'm sure they didn't really lose their shirt.
Well,
I'm sure
yeah,
that
but,
was
but
that,
that's why
that was
they
it.
paid
But
him
he
for
lost.
that
But he
money.
lost his shirt because 5,000, I guess, to him was a lot of money because he wasn't a big mobster.
And he did lose that fight, which
Which I again thought was stupid. You should have won the fight, But I guess they wanted to give you that stupid Christian values thing, and that was better than him winning.
but yeah, ultimately, Hellman has him meet him at a church, and he's like, well, there is this benefit that your old church needs money for.
Well,
And,
the thing that he was making in the beginning, the whole time he was trying to make a recreation center, and that's what it was for the recreation center.
yep, if you're not going to fight for you, at least fight for them.
Yeah.
And
He does. He does. I guess even though he lost, he still made. It was still enough for the purse. The money that they brought in was still enough to help the church. So even though he lost, they still won. But yeah.
oh, he actually lost this fight for the benefit.
He lost the fight, yes, but they were getting the money, all the proceeds. All the proceeds for the fight were going to the church because that's what the manager's deal was, because they were making all their money from the side bets because they expected him to win, because they figured, he was going to go back to his other style, which he didn't. He did go offensive, but he still didn't really go back to his style, and I think that's why he lost.
I did want to mention Pete again because at the dance he said something to the effect that did you happen to notice the patch on his coat? Well,
Yeah,
he tried to steal the
the
candle,
candle, and he
and
quickly
he
put
didn't
it in
realize it was still on
still lit.
fire.
He wasn't stealing it, actually. He was holding it, and something made him nervous or something, and he put it in his jacket just out of habit, and it was still lit.
And
So
then
it was actually an accident.
and then later, after this whole fight, he comes back and brings back the candlesticks.
Yeah, he brings back the candlestick, and he puts in
He
stuff
also
into the.
steals the chocolate,
I thought he was actually going to steal the money, but instead he put stuff he stole in the plate.
and when Barony was in the hospital after he got his
Yeah, he stole
he stole a box of
a
chocolates.
funeral wreath. He's like, I won the match. He's like, yeah, but this is all that. This was when I was shopping. So like something.
He also took all the refreshments from the table.
Oh yeah, and Barony got them all back except for the banana, except for a banana, which he missed in his pocket. I guess he wasn't happy to see him because it really was a banana in his pocket.
Like I said, he is comical. That dude. I wish I'd have seen him in other things in comical roles.
Yeah, if he was in comical roles, I could see him doing like a main role. Yeah, I mean, he definitely had the comedy to do, be well known, like Laurel and Hardy and Natalie Stoll and all those others, Buster Keaton and stuff. I mean, he was really, really pretty funny, and he was just a side person in this
It's
movie.
funny. It's almost like his screen role almost outshines Leonard Nimoy in here.
Almost,
Honestly, almost.
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 I completely disagree. I think he completely outshines him.
And here come the squabbling squabs.
No, he does. He outshines him.
But in any case, I think we. And Emily does show up to that final match with the priest, and she's like, "Oh, he never wanted me to see one of his fights."
Well, you're
And
not here to see the fight. You're here. You're here to pray and pray for him and wish him well. And she's
Yep.
like, "That's right, Father."
And I'm trying to see, do they actually like show them actually getting married?
Nope.
Uh, uh,
Nope.
uh,
He just
it's
has
just
the priest saying, Barony and his wife Emily will return to the church when they get back. Obviously, they're on their honeymoon. The parents are there, Baroni's parents are there and stuff. But yeah, he dedicates it to Baroni because it was him that's got them all the money to open it early, and yeah, so
Well, at least the good deed was accomplished, and as far as we know, them two had a love affair of a lifetime. So,
yeah, this is where the end of the movie ends, and that's it.
yep. So, why don't we talk about production? What did y'all think about production?
Lazy because it was black and white, no reason for it.
What about you, Tammy?
Well, I I thought it was decent. I mean, there wasn't really anything to like hype up or anything. You know what I mean? It was showing them, the places and everything were just, like normal places. So it wasn't anything to like get all hyped up about or anything.
Yeah, it was bad choreography on the fighting too.
So I think it was decent for what the movie was.
Okay. What about you, Boris?
Well, I pretty much agree with Tammy. I guess it's good for the time when it was made. Mm,
Watch a movie called
it
Dorchester, made in 1955. Oh wait, we did. Now that was a movie. Still one of my favorite comedies.
Whereas I think that it was decent for the time as time that it was. No, there wasn't anything spectacular to say. Oh wow, look at this place. I got to remember it or whatnot or the locations. I I do think that there are more fights in here than there are in the first three Rocky movies combined. But
Quality over quantity.
see, I disagree. There is some quality in this one.
No, there isn't.
I disagree. But
I know you disagree.
but
You usually do.
and normally there are reasons, and maybe part of it is because um I guess
Tell
I
me, what did black and white make? How did the black and white make this movie better? Because you say black and white makes movies better. How did it make this movie better?
because black and white was simple. You didn't need to see all the colors, and there was some mystery involved with the production. Black and white will always be better and will stay better.
So, in other words, nothing. That's what I figured.
I disagree, but
You said nothing. You said
Tammy,
absolutely nothing made it better. You just like black and white, and that's why you
Tammy,
like it.
do you like black and white movies?
It depends on the movie. I mean, I like the older what do you want to say, monster movies or whatever in
Yeah,
black and white, because
those 100% should be black and white.
I
And
think
it
that
made them better.
I think, yeah, I think it made them better. Now, um, I guess it just depends on the movie. I mean, with this one, it was okay. I think that it was black and white, but
It didn't make it
I
better.
I think it would have been fine in color too. Okay, I don't think it didn't give it the I don't know
Right,
what
that's
the
what I'm
right word
saying.
to
It
say.
didn't give it anything being in black
Right,
and
it
white.
didn't give it the
The
same.
nuance.
Yeah, the same thing that you get from a
Like some
monster,
old
like a black and
detective
white
movies
monster movie.
sometimes are good in black and white because they're mysteries. They're supposed to be black and white because, like you said, black and white kind of builds a mystery. This movie isn't a mystery, and it shouldn't be a mystery. It was just lazy for them not to make it color. If they didn't have the capabilities, okay, fine, but they did. So it was just
It just doesn't
laziness.
give the same as like a black and white monster movie. it the black and white gives more of the suspense and more of the and everything.
Exactly.
With this being in black and white doesn't give you anything like that because that's not what kind of movie it is.
Exactly. So that's why I call it lazy.
I don't call it lazy
Because you like black and white, and you don't care if it adds to the movie or not, and it clearly doesn't add anything to the movie at all.
I think it adds a lot of shadow, a lot of.
I just asked you, and you didn't say anything, and
I
you're,
did
you're still
say.
you're
I
still
said
saying the
plenty.
same thing. You're saying that you like black and white. That's all you're saying. You're not saying it added anything to the story or anything visually to the story at all because it didn't.
In my mind, it did, and I don't
And
need
only your mind.
to.
Well,
That's my
a
point.
good example is Twilight Zone.
Exactly.
Twilight Zone, I don't think
Twilight
would be.
Zone should be black and white. I mean, sure,
I
Dwight,
don't
it's a
think
newer
Twilight
version.
Zone would be Twilight Zone if it wasn't in black and white. It's that's part of what makes it.
Yeah, mystery,
Or
noir
go for
movies,
Hitchcock.
monster movies. They all have a reason to be black and white. And frankly, I don't mind watching them. But stuff like this, or It's a Wonderful Life, or stuff like that, it's stupid to watch in black and white.
See,
You
it's a
know,
wonderful life that I will fight you tooth and nail
fight
on.
me all you want. It's
Oh,
stupid to have it black and white, and it doesn't make a better
It
story at
looks
all.
horrible in color. Horrible.
No, it's horrible in black and white. Horrible, despicable,
oh,
the worst.
well, if I remember correctly, I think I watched It's a Wonderful Life in color, and I don't really think I found it bad because of being in color, although
Of course not.
I
It was way
didn't see
better.
it.
I will only
Just
watch
like
it in
Miracle
black
on
and white.
31st Street. Now, to be fair, with Miracle on 31st Street, they didn't have the technology originally to do it in color. And I think maybe the same for It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, that
But
one
making
is
them in color as soon
in
as they
black and
could,
white
they
and color.
did, and that's what makes it better. Now, changing the beginning of Wizard of Oz to color was retarded. It's stupid. That 100% should have been black and white because it showed the difference between the dreary Kansas black and white to the colorful land of Oz.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that movie was made for both black and white and color at the same time.
It
I
was. The beginning was black and white, the
Yep.
rest was color. And stupid Ted Turner thought, let's make it all color. Moron. I mean, I'm 100% for color, but there's reasons to have black and white. And when they do have it, like, okay, they actually have a black and white version of Snyder's Justice League. I watched the beginning of it. The very beginning, the funeral scene is perfect in black and white, 100% perfect. After that, I shut it off because it was just no. Superhero movies should not be black and white. But the funeral, it fit the funeral perfectly. The funeral of Superman, having it in black and white.
believe that they also did Logan in black and white.
No, I never saw it. But again, superhero movie, so
Yeah,
probably should
they
not be.
called it when it came on the blue when they put it out on the Blu-ray set. They had a on one hand they had the theatrical and unrated, and on the second disc they had a noir version of the film. And I know Dane talks up the black and white version like non-stop when he talks about it, but that was one where I just didn't think it needed black and white.
Holy shit! You give me a fucking
Like
heart attack,
some
dude.
some movies
You're giving me a
should
fucking heart
not
attack,
be
dude.
in black and white because they are so colorful.
You're giving me a heart attack, dude.
But then again, I haven't seen this movie in color. So if they ever colorized it or something like that, or tinted it with like Technicolor or whatnot, I'd give it a watch just to
I,
see how they would colorize it.
I doubt they will because I don't think anyone really cares about the movie.
Well, I would like to eventually, and Kino Lorber, you can hear me on this because I think that would be a better place for this movie eventually. Um, but I would like to see it cleaned up. I would like to see if they could find some original footage and whatever they could do to spruce it up and make it not so like VHS quality. I would like to see what they could do with the film if they were able to transfer it all.
VHS quality. VHS wasn't even out when it came out.
Well, it was.
No, it wasn't. There was no
Well, it
VHS when
wasn't
stuff in
then.
1955.
Like
There wasn't even Beta in 1955, and Beta came out way before VHS.
I would say if they could find like its original negative or whatnot, I'd like to see them try.
Well, I'm sure they could, but I'm just pointing out that it couldn't be VHS quality because there was no VHS then.
Well, I know that it eventually did get a VHS copy.
I think I saw the negatives. It was, the Internet Archive version was pretty crappy.
But that being said, let's go into, well, let's see, music. Did anyone notice the music at all?
I noticed it.
Well,
And that's all I got to say about it.
aside from aside from that part that was weirdly cut off for some reason, actually I oh well yeah, there was the music that he was listening to on vinyls. That yeah, I guess for those who like that type of music. Aside from that, I don't really know what to say about it. Other than that, I didn't really notice much. I'm sorry.
I think the when he was playing that Christian church music, and then he shut it off when the manager knocked at his door to tell him about the syndicate and stuff. I think that music was a little bit upbeat and kind of cool. Like it's not my type of music, but it was still decent. It was way better than that church going crap.
Well, the music was done by a guy by the name of Herschel Burke Gilbert. He has been around since the mid 40s. He did stuff behind films such as Whistle Stop. He was an orchestrator behind It's a Wonderful Life. He did some composing music in the 13th Hour. I did in a movie called Christmas Eve. The Lady from Shanghai, he was an orchestrator in. I believe I saw him behind King Kong. Let's see. I thought I saw him. Ah, yes. He was a music director behind a sci-fi movie called Project Moonbase. He was a musical director behind a film called Carmen Jones. Yes. He was a composer for the stock music behind Godzilla Raids Again. For some of the music behind It Came From Beneath the Sea. Let's see. Uh, he was behind some of the music behind a movie called Gigantus, the Fire Monster from 1959. So he's definitely been behind some of the lesser known science fiction films from the 50s. And oh yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla in 1963. They used some stock music from.
Oh, the good original where King Kong wins.
He also was the composer behind the animation of the Mighty Hercules from 1963 to 1965. He was also a music supervisor behind 23 episodes of Perry Mason, 15 episodes of Rawhide, and 14 episodes of Gunsmoke, 32 episodes of Gilligan's Island, 79 episodes of Burke's Law, and he was the music director behind The Witch Who Came from the Sea. And recently,
Which?
I guess, some music of his was used in Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl for 2022
Oh, fuck.
with Full Moon.
That sounds like something we'd watch.
Interesting.
But yeah,
That's no moon.
That was a full moon film, a recent one. So, yeah, I guess if you use stock music from past films, you end up getting new credits. But let's go into favorite scenes and favorite characters. Let's start with you, Gro.
Favorite character, Pete. He's absolutely hilarious. Like I said, he completely outshines Leonard Nimoy. I didn't know the actor. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything since. It's a shame. I think if managed right, he probably could have headlined some comedy, and everybody would have known who he was. I thought he was really hilarious in this film. That was not a comedy, but he was definitely some comic relief, well needed, like you said. Definitely needed it. It was kind of a boring film, but he lit it up a little bit. And I think the best scene is the scene in the beginning when he's they find out he stole all the firewood and they're taking it all out, and then they take the sausage. Like, yeah, I stole that. Like, that'll teach you to hold out on us. And then he's like, "You want some mustard?" He pulls mustard out of a jar of mustard out of his jacket, and it just made me think of the commercials of you got any Grey Poupon or something, because that's what the mustard kind of looked like. Of course, this is before there was Grey Poupon, but I don't know. That scene right there was the funniest scene, I think, with him, and that's my favorite scene.
Okay, heading over to you, Boris. Favorite scene or scenes or favorite character?
This is probably going to be ironic regarding the kind of movies and generally content I usually like to watch, but my favorite character is the priest, mainly because of. Sorry, what did you say?
I just laughed. I snickered because what you said. Because yeah, I know what you like, and you liking the priest is kind of funny.
I see why, but
kind of like me liking the priest.
Sorry. Sorry, I had a glitch. What did you say?
I said it's kind of like me liking the priest, and honestly, he's probably the second best character.
Yeah, like while in real life, I honestly don't think many priests are as good as this guy was, but yeah, I really liked his character, mostly because he was decent and honest, and because of what he said about how Paul should treat himself regarding his looks, that. Just because other people may have given him shit about his looks doesn't mean he should do it to himself.
I think I think he gave himself, not to interrupt, sorry, but I think he was harder on himself than anybody else was. Like, you don't even, besides the manager, no one really even says anything about his face that you see in the movie, except him. He's constantly putting himself down because of his face. So he's rougher on himself than anybody else is, hands down. Go
Hmm.
ahead.
Well, okay, I didn't really notice that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, when he said just because others treat you badly because of your face doesn't mean you should do the same thing to yourself.
Makes you just
That
as guilty as they are.
Yeah, yeah, that was my favorite moment, and I think that's actually a very good thing to say to someone who is dealing with similar issues in their lives. And also, I wanted to say regarding that, I kind of had an issue with the scene when Emily suggested him to do plastic surgery instead of encouraging him to learn to like himself the way he is.
I think okay. The way I see it is, she doesn't care how he looks. It doesn't bother her at all. She doesn't think there's anything wrong with him. She knows deep down he can't stand it, and it's making him angry. It's making him upset. She wants him happy. She mentions the plastic surgery because she thinks it'll make him happy because she knows that nothing's gonna. Even the priest saying that nothing has changed his mind. You know, nothing changes his mind on how he feels about himself. So she mentions the plastic surgery because she wants him to feel good about himself, and he does. But unfortunately, he also changes his attitude and becomes kind of a dick.
Well, yeah, he now can do. He now is treated better too by females in general.
Well,
Uh,
the basically only female we saw him
yeah,
being
but
treated was her. But I'm sure if there was other females around, they'd be swooning over him more. Because, yeah.
all right, Tammy. Favorite scene or scenes or favorite character?
I like Angelo.
He's a good character.
I like how he stuck by him, even and he kept trying to give him advice, kept trying to be there for him, kept trying to be his best friend, you know. And even though when he pushed him away, he still tried to be there.
So the same
And
for Emily too.
that's, I think that was something that he really needed, even though he
Well, yeah,
didn't realize it throughout the whole thing.
there was a moment after he'd thrown him out that he was coming outside for somewhere, and he ran into Angelo, and he was so happy to see him.
Right. I mean, just because you didn't see Angelo after you threw him out doesn't mean he wasn't around and watching over him. Because I believe
Sure, he
he
was.
still was. Um, One of my favorite scenes, I like Pete at the end when he's sitting there and you think he's going to take the money, the collection money, and then he looks at it, and then all of a sudden he starts putting all these things back. And then he goes and does the little water thing, and walks out. And I thought that was really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a good scene. He did learn.
As far as the film goes, I like little bits of everyone. I do like the fact that we get to see a whole lot of emotion from Leonard Nimoy as a character.
Nimoy.
Uh, um, Anger, excitement, these are things that you don't see from him on a regular basis on Star Trek, because that's just not his character.
Do see it a little bit.
You do see it a little bit, especially with McCoy and uh,
Kirk.
Kirk. But yeah, ultimately, I like Pete more than I like Nimoy in this film, just because he's just that damn funny.
Yeah,
And
like I
I
said.
think that's what drew me to the film to begin with, even though Nimoy was in here.
He was.
And it does help that there are some pretty dames in here, and
Yeah, June does
I
have some
do
numbers.
like I do like the message that the priest gives in this. I mean, especially at this time period. So um, there are aspects of the film that I enjoy because of everyone involved. But that being said, did anyone else have anything else to say about the film?
Mm,
Make
I
more Pete
don't.
movies.
uh, well,
I
we
I personally think that as far as characters go, for me, it's Pete, and then the father, and then I give it a three-way tie. I'm sorry, a two-way tie between Emily and Angelo for third. Leonard Nimoy probably makes about fourth. I know he's the main character, but like I said, he's not. He's not hateable. He's not really likable. I mean, he's all right. He's just kind of there. You know, he just I don't know. I ain't really more like to me. My feelings on him was more like Spock. You know, I don't really have that much emotions for him.
um, one thing I did want to say is for some reason every time he called the priest "father,"
Father,
it made me think of that old song, "Hello,
hello,
mother,
mother.
hello,
Hello,
father,
father. Greetings
here
from
we are at
Japan.
Camp Granada." But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you get a chance to see the film. It's not bad, and if you like black and white movies, it's definitely up
For no
there.
reason.
It's not for no reason.
For no reason.
They probably
Laziness.
didn't have the money for it because
Laziness.
Technicolor costs money at this
Laziness.
point in time. It cost money,
Laziness.
but evidently we have some people in here who don't know the cost of money.
I'm stupid.
If you don't have the money for it, you don't put it in there. So
Well, maybe
but,
the movie would have made more money if they put it in there.
maybe if they had the money to begin with to do it, maybe they would have. But
All right,
They
quit arguing.
they should have gotten more money.
Next week is me, right?
Please don't subject us to a stupid movie again.
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak.
Sounds stupid. No, I'm just kidding. Don't know anything about it.
So next week is you.
Crimson Peak. I heard of that one.
No, you didn't. Don't lie. I'm just kidding.
It's
Yeah,
fitting.
Crimson
It's
Peak
fitting.
is
It's
directed
October.
by Guillermo del Toro.
Please tell me it's a fucking horror movie.
It is.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you.
it's fitting. It's October. So
Yes, I agree.
Ooh,
Crimson,
cool.
what's it called? Crimson what?
Yep.
Crimson
Peak.
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 Have you ever heard of it?
2015. No, I'm looking it up.
Well,
After marrying the charming and seductive. Okay.
Judging by the title, let's hope the movie is not all in red.
Well, I'll
Just
have to
kidding.
bring out my copy.
I have a copy.
I know you have a copy, but I have a better copy.
I don't have a copy
Do
and
you?
I don't care.
But hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you can you like our discussion. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the film if you've seen it, and we'll be back next week with Crimson Peak. So stay tuned for more exciting adventures from us here on Delusions of Grandeur. And everyone say good night.
Every
Good
Sunday.
night.
And also
Good
on
night.
Tuesdays. Good night.